My ex called me poor in front of the restaurant. Now I own that restaurant. I never thought I'd see her again. Not after the way things ended. Not after the humiliation. And definitely not in that place. But life has a strange sense of timing. This happened about 7 years ago when I was 24 and completely broke. I don't mean can't afford vacations broke. I mean counting change at the grocery store broke. I had just dropped out of a business program I couldn't afford anymore and was working 2 jobs, mornings at a warehouse, nights delivering food. My ex, Lena, was the opposite. She came from money. Her parents owned property. She had a safety net so thick she didn't even realize it was there. At first, she said she liked that I was driven, that I was hustling. But after a while, that word turned into embarrassment. We were dating for just under a year when it happened. She invited me out to a new upscale restaurant downtown. White tablecloths, low lighting, the kind of place where the menu doesn't list prices. I remember hesitating when she suggested it. I told her maybe we should grab something casual. She laughed and said, "Relax, I've got it." That should have been my first warning. Dinner started fine. We ordered drinks, appetizers, everything. But when the bill came, she slid it toward me. I froze. I quietly said, "I thought you said you had it." She sighed, loudly. Then she leaned back in her chair and said, not quietly, "God, it's always about money with you." People at nearby tables looked over. My face burned. I whispered, "Can we talk about this later?" That's when she said it. She looked at me, rolled her eyes, and said, "This is why dating someone poor is exhausting." The waiter was standing right there. I wanted the floor to swallow me. I didn't say anything. I just stood up, apologized to the waiter, and walked out. She texted me later saying I overreacted. We broke up a week after that. For months, that moment haunted me. Every time I checked my bank account, every time I worked a double shift, every time I felt behind in life, that sentence replayed in my head. Dating someone poor is exhausting. It wasn't even anger that stuck with me. It was shame. But slowly, shame turned into fuel. I doubled down. I worked every shift I could. I saved aggressively. I started reading business books during my lunch breaks. Eventually, I landed an entry-level job at a small logistics startup. The pay wasn't great, but there was growth. I stayed late. I volunteered for everything. I learned skills outside my job description. 5 years later, that startup got acquired. My stock options paid out more money than I'd ever seen in my life. For the first time, I wasn't surviving. I was building. About a year after the acquisition, I started looking into local investments. That's when I saw it. The restaurant. The same one. Turns out the original owner was retiring. The place wasn't failing, but it needed modernization. I laughed when I saw the listing. Then I stopped laughing. The numbers made sense. I visited the restaurant anonymously, sat at the same table, ordered the same drink, and I realized something strange. I didn't feel bitter. I felt ready. 3 months later, I signed the papers. I owned the restaurant. About 6 weeks after reopening, updated menu, fresh branding, she walked in. I recognized her instantly. Same walk, same confidence. She didn't recognize me at first. Why would she? I wasn't the broke guy counting change anymore. I was in a tailored jacket, talking with the manager near the bar. She was seated at a table near the window. At some point, the manager came over and quietly asked if I wanted to greet guests. I nodded. I walked over. She looked up, and I saw it. The flicker of recognition. Her eyes widened. "Wait, is that you?" I smiled. "Yeah. Hi, Lena." She laughed awkwardly. "Oh my God. Wow. What are you doing here?" I gestured around. "I own the place." She stared at me. For a moment, she looked genuinely stunned. Then she said, "Wow. Guess things worked out for you." I nodded. They did. There was a pause. Then she laughed and said, "I guess I shouldn't have called you poor back then." The table went quiet. I leaned in slightly and said, calmly, "You didn't call me poor. You made it clear you thought I was less than." Her smile faded. I didn't mean... I know, I said, but it still mattered. I didn't kick her out. I didn't embarrass her. I let her finish her meal. When the check came, I told the server to comp it. She caught me near the door on the way out. She said, "I'm proud of you." I smiled. "Thanks. I'm proud of me too." She nodded, unsure what to say, and left. And that was it. No dramatic speech, no revenge moment, just closure. I didn't succeed to prove her wrong, but I also won't pretend her words didn't light the fire.